ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ वर्स नंबर 111 नित्यज्ञानादिमत्वेस्य सृष्टिरेव सदा भवेत् हिरण्यगर्भ ईशोतः लिङ्गदेहेन संयुतः. So, with the previous verse number 110, we have completed the Nyaya philosophy of Ishvara. So, we have taken all major darshanams, two types of darshanams, astikam, nastikam, and we are talking right now of astika darshanam and what are the confusions in those philosophies regarding Ishvara. And so all Shad Darshanas are over as such. I mean, because Shad Darshana means all the 6 Astika philosophies are over. Well, Sankhyas and this Vaisheshika and this Purvamimamsaka don't believe in Ishvara. And therefore, the discussion regarding them is over. Because they don't believe. So there is nothing to talk about what is the concept of Ishvara. What is their conclusion regarding the nature of Ishvara? We have not to discuss because they don't believe. Then the other 3 darshanas, and so Nayayikas, and then Vedantins, and yoga people, they believe in Ishvara. And then we have discussed what are the opinions, conclusions regarding nature of Ishvara in yoga and Nyaya also. So if I remind you, yoga philosopher says Ishvara is all-pervading, Jiva is all-pervading. I mean, what they want to say is ultimately there is a Atma, Paramatma, other than Jiva. That's called Ishvara. Other than Jivatma and superior of course. That will be Paramatma, Ishvara. And so both are having certain common characteristics, and that characteristic will be, both are all pervading, both are consciousness, etc. and both are asangam, unconnected to anything. But still Ishvara is superior to Jiva. Who says? Yoga people. That Ishvara is superior to Jiva because Ishvara is not affected by klesha, karma, vipaka and ashaya, samskaras, etc. And therefore Ishvara and Jiva, even though they are similar in many aspects, but still Ishvara is a superior one compared to Jiva. And therefore Ishvara, even though he is a one, he controls these Jivatmas who are many because of the superior attributes. And and because he is not affected, and therefore he is a Niyanta. He has an overlordship over all the Jivas. Jivas are all basically controlled. Ishvara is a controller. So that is what they say regarding Ishvara. Then Nayayika says, no. That is not possible. Why? Because you can't say that Ishvara, even though he is a controller, and yet he does not have a relationship. A controllerhood is possible when he is connected to the controlled. If he is not, he is totally unconnected to what is controlled, Whereas he is not called controller. When you say controller, definitely is connected to control, the things which are controlled. And therefore there is a relationship of a niyanta and niyamya. Controlled relationship. And therefore you cannot say Ishvara is asangaha. And Jiva also is asangaha, you cannot say. Both you cannot say like that. Because Jiva also is connected to Ishvara. They are controlled and Ishvara is a controller. And therefore, well, definitely both are asanga chaitanyam. Both are consciousness, all right, that we accept. But both are asangam. We cannot accept. We have to accept that, Ishvara is connected to the world also, and Ishvara is connected to Jiva also. So Ishvara is also has a sangha, and Jiva also has a sangha. Both are connected. Both have a relationship, etc. And and then Nayayika says, Nitya Jnanadimatya, Nitya Jnanam, Nitya Ichcha, Nitya Prayatna, etc. Well, we have seen that kind of a thing. So Jiva also has a certain attributes, Ishvara also has certain attributes. Jiva and Ishvara has certain common characteristic. What? According to Nayayika, please understand now. Well, Jiva is also all-pervading, Ishvara is also all-pervading. Jiva is inert and Ishvara also is inert. But they have a consciousness as a property. And when Jiva comes in contact with the mind, etc., then the consciousness arises. We have seen that while discussing Tvam Padartha. Same way in Tat Padartha also. Well, Ishvara means what? Ishvara is actually inert. But when he comes in contact with a bigger Upadhi, consciousness arises. And therefore, so you see Jiva and Ishvara as a conscious being, but that consciousness is not their nature. They are inert by nature, but consciousness arises. And this is what they think. Anyway, so Jiva and Ishvara both are inert. Jiva and Ishvara both are asangam. Jiva and Ishvara both are all pervading. And then, you are also you have started enumerating all the similar characteristics between them. Then why you say Jiva and Ishvara are one alone? No. Ishvara is different from Jiva. Because Jiva's attributes are Jiva's attributes. Ishvara's attributes are Ishvara's attributes. Means, what do you want to think? Oh, Jiva has 9 attributes, right? We have already told you while discussing Tvam Padartha that 9 things are there. Jnana, Ichcha, Prayatna, and then Dharma, Adharma, Sukha, Dukkha, Samskara. All this we have talked about. All these 9 guna properties are there. So basically Jiva is also Sagunam, Ishvara is also Sagunam. Then the difference between Jiva and Ishvara is superior and Jiva is inferior. Because superior attributes and inferior attributes. And therefore what superior attributes, which superior attributes are there in Ishvara? Well, this Jnana, Ichcha and Prayatna, out of the 9 gunas in the Jiva, this Jnana, Ichcha, Prayatna is also there in this Ishvara. Jnana, Ichcha, Prayatna is there in the Jiva also. But Ishvara's Jnanam, Ichcha and Prayatna are Nityam. Nitya Jnanam. All the time endowed with the property of Jnana. With Sarvajnam. All the time. Right? And Jiva has Anitya Jnanam. Because, this Pancadasi knowledge, I have told you, Pancadasi knowledge was not there before 6 months. Now, even the word, sometimes it happens, even in Vedantic circle, the word Pancadasi itself is not known. Where is a question of knowing the content of Pancadasi? The word, what is this Pancadasi? What is that? Is it some kind of an animal or what? So then that kind of a thing may arise. No. Pancadasi is a Prakarana Grantha. Oh, who has written? Now you are gathering the knowledge. Means before that it was not there. Means Jiva has Jnanam, of course, but it is Anityam. It arises. Anityam, which arises and goes away also. After some time, what is there in Pancadashi, you will forget once, right? What is the content of the 5 chapters right now? If I just say only 5 lines about these 5 chapters, 5 lines. Oh, Swami, please don't ask all this kind of a thing. If you want to teach, otherwise forget it. Okay. So, Jnanam. So, Anitya Jnanam. Ishvara is a Nitya Jnanam. Okay, superior. Then Nitya Ichcha. Jiva also has so many desires, but all unfulfilled. That is how his face becomes sometime, His face represents that his desire was not, his or her desire is not fulfilled. And therefore, Jnanam is Anityam, Ichcha Anityam. obstructed. I mean, he has a desire but cannot fulfill. Some lot of obstruction. Effort very limited. Activity limited. And effect. So his activity definitely affects surrounding, etc. But to a limited extent. Ishvara's jnanam, Ishvara's ichha, Ishvara's activity, prayatna, Ishvara's effort means Ishvara's activity, oh, very large. And therefore, well, so he is superior and Jiva is inferior because of superior attributes. Both are all pervading, both are inert, both are sagunam. Please understand, Naiyayikas don't believe in Nirguna Brahma. Ishvara means sagunam, Jiva means sagunam. But the gunas, attributes, are superior in Ishvara and Jivas has inferior attribute. But you are talking 9 gunas. So all 9 gunas are not there in a superior way in a Ishvara. No. Why? Because this dharma, adharma, sukham, dukkham, samskara, all belongs to Jiva only. It is not there in Ishvara. Means Ishvara will have a dharma, dharma. Means Ishvara has a punya papam. Then he also has to take a birth and death and everything. I mean, he is also undergoing death and etc. So that is not possible. And then accordingly pleasure, pain and and samskaras, varieties of the vasanas are there, which is constantly afflicting us, right? Varieties of the impression affects the jivas. And therefore these gunas are not there in Ishvara. Only jnana, ichha, prayatna are there, and that too nitya jnana, nitya ichha, nitya prayatna, etc. So what I want to convey is, so we have discussed the varieties of the opinions. I mean, in this Astika Darshanam, who accepts Ishvara? Well, this yoga philosophers, Nayayika philosophers and us. And we have discussed this yoga and Nayayikas. What is the nature of Ishvara, what they talk about, what is their opinion or conclusion, which is nothing but a confusion that we have discussed. Then why don't you discuss now Vedanta? That is the Siddhanta. We are right now, giving a list of these confusions, and therefore other darshanas only I am talking about. This Siddhanta that is a Vedantic, the opinion or conclusion regarding Ishvara we'll talk about later. Anyway, and so now all major darshanams are covered. And now Vidyaranya deals with a certain minor systems of philosophy. That's what the word I told you in the last, right? Minor systems of philosophy and major systems of philosophy. And by minor systems of philosophy, well, definitely, I mean certain philosophers who have got a certain view with respect to certain things. And they don't have a consistent philosophy comprehensively dealing with the important topics. See, the philosophy or the darshan, I'm going to define darshan. Then we'll discuss what is major and minor, etc. So, a major darshanam, I mean a philosophy, basically a darshanam becomes major darshanam only when it comprehensively and clearly discusses 6 major topics. First, nature of Jiva. Second, nature of world, Jagat. Third, nature of Ishvara. Fourth, nature of bondage that Jiva feels. Fifth, nature of moksha. And sixth, the means of moksha. These are the 6 topics. Whichever the darshanam philosophy discusses these topics thoroughly, systematically, logically, comprehensively, whichever darshanam discusses, that darshanam philosophy is called major darshanam. And all the Sankhya and Yoga and Nayayika and Vaisheshika, Nyaya philosophy, Vaisheshika philosophy and Purvamimamsa philosophy and Vedanta, all they talk about this, these 6 topics elaborately, logically establishes. Whatever they consider, nature of Ishvara is basically they consider that he is a controller, etc. They will give a logic. Why we call Ishvara as a Niyanta, controller, etc. etc. So all these 6 topics are discussed systematically and logically in any darshanam that we call it as a major darshanam. And wherever whereas this following now, which we are going to see, those darshanams, well, they held some view regarding Ishvara here and there, but they don't discuss totally all the 6 topics, and therefore I call them as a minor darshanam. They don't discuss all the 6 topics elaborately, systematically, or logically. One of the topic they discuss. Right now we are having a topic of Ishvara. So this minor philosophy will talk about the nature of Ishvara. But they are not telling anything regarding the nature of bondage and nature of moksha, what is called moksha, etc., and how to gain moksha, etc. They don't discuss elaborately, etc. So I call them as a minor darshan, a minor philosophy. That's the difference. And so in these 2 verses, 111 and 112, and we are talking about one minor philosopher called Hiranyagarbhavadi. Hiranyagarbhavadi means what? These philosophers who worship, who meditate Hiranyagarbha, and they are called Hiranyagarbha Upasakas. And otherwise, these Upasakas are called Hiranyagarbha. Who follows Nyaya philosophy called Naiyayika. So who believes Ishvara is a Hiranyagarbha, and they are called Hiranyagarbha. And what do? Their first job is what? First job we have given them. We are right now in a one big room, and all are sitting around this round table, and we have given them one job. If you want a microphone and you want to talk, first you have to negate the previous philosopher. That's all. We are sitting in the one corner. We are not telling anything. Only the major responsibility we have given them is whatever you want to talk about about your opinion regarding Ishvara or whatever. First you have to negate the previous one. And so that is what he is doing now. He is telling, because the previous one was a Naiyayika, right? He said Ishvara is the one who has a Nitya Jnanam, Nitya Ichcha, Nitya Prayatna, etc. And that is the nature of Ishvara, etc. And so then this Hiranyagarbhavadi, who believes the Ishvara is a Hiranyagarbha, he has to negate first Naiyayikas, the opinion of Ishvara. So he is negating now in this verse. Nitya Jnanadi Matve. If Bhagavan has got this Nitya Jnanam, Ishvara has got Nitya Jnanam, Nitya Ichcha, Nitya Prayatna. What will be the tragedy? That is what he is telling. That he will be perpetually creating the world. He will be all the time creating the world. Because Nitya Jnanam, Nitya Ichcha, all the time desiring of the creation. Then all the time creation will take place. No, but let him desire. But it doesn't mean that creation will take place. You also desire to create varieties of the things. But you can't create. Yeah, but he is Ishvara. Okay? And Nitya Jnanam, he has he's all knowledge. And knowledge of how to create. Not only that, Nitya Prayatna. So he has he is able to create also. He has that Kriya Shakti to create. And then if he desires to create, then that Jnanam and Prayatnam also will be there all to support it. And so whole time just creation and creation and creation. Consistently the world will be created. So creation is a consequence of a perpetual operation of Ichcha, Jnana and Kriya Shakti. And so creation will be constantly there. Okay, so what? You can guess what I am saying. There will be no pralayam. There will be no pralayam. There will be, so that is pralaya abhava dosha. So in Nyaya definition of Ishvara, basically, these people, the Hiranyagarbhavadi points out if a defect of a Nyaya philosophy regarding Ishvara's nature, that if Naiyayika says that Ishvara is basically Nitya Jnanam, Nitya Ichcha, Nitya Prayatna, all the time active, constantly desiring about creation, and for to create also he has a Nitya Jnanam, he is a Sarvagnya, etc. And therefore he constantly creates and creates and creates, because Nityam, he doesn't stop at all. If he stops, then his desire stops of creating, means what? Anityam. So he is constantly creating. So there will not be any pralaya, constant srushti will be there. I can see, I will give you an example so you will understand that. Like a human being. Take a human being. Suppose he is permanently active, right? Nitya prayatna. He is constantly active. And because he has a constant desire, and that desire does not allow him to take a rest at all. So he's active. Then there will be what? There will be no laya, no sushupti, sir. If he is constantly active, and he has a desire, and so he is constantly active, because karma will be generated out of the kama, ichha only, and therefore he will be, and jnanam also is there. So and therefore he constantly active. Then there will be no laya. Well, then at an individual level, well, if he is permanently active, and then there will be no laya. At a total level, at Ishvara's level, if constantly the desire and constantly activity, etc., then there will be no pralaya. So at a Vyashti level, it is laya, that's sushupti. At a samashti level, at a Ishvara's level, well, there will be no pralaya. But then that is okay. Let it be like that. It cannot be like that, because you are going against Veda. Because all the scriptures talk about Srishti, Sthiti and Laya. And therefore, well, you cannot explain according to your definition of Ishvara that Srishti, Sthiti and Laya, means Pralaya. You cannot explain. Therefore, we are not able to accept that Ishvara has a guna. Ishvara is a sagunam, you said, and Ishvara is a guna. Nitya jnanam, nitya ichha, nitya prayatna. Well, if you think little further, you will find this is an absurd thinking. Nayayikas, the logicians, have a most illogical thinking, that all the time creation going on, because nitya prayatna means constantly active, and therefore there is no rest for Ishvara, and therefore, well, so that is not possible. Ishvara also takes a rest, okay? That is called pralaya, and his sleep is a long, naturally, because the individual sleep 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, but then this Ishvara also has a pralaya, means his sushupti, his deep sleep state is a very long, and therefore, well, this is not possible. This is not possible. Asya, so Vidyaranya says, asya means this nitya jnanadi matve asya ishvarasya. So, well, if Ishvara means has this, he is as perpetually associated with this nitya jnana, ichha and kriya, then definitely, here actually jnanadi matve. So, you know, this mat suffix is in the sense of possession. You know this, buddhimat. From that the word buddhiman has come. Buddhiman, etc., and then buddhimano, etc. So mat affix, mat or vat, either. Both are possessive affix. With bhaga, etc., you have vat, bhagavat. From that word, then the declensions are bhagavan, bhagavanto, bhagavanto, bhagavantaha, etc. So here buddhiman, buddhimanto, buddhimantaha, these are the forms. So what mat and vat affixes are there. But then why where somewhere mat and somewhere vat? Because if a word ends, that pratipadikam ends in akara, you have to add vat. If it is other than a, if it ends in any other vowel other than a, you have to add mat. So buddhi ends in e, so add mat. So buddhi means intellect, knowledge. Buddhimat, one who has knowledge. Possessive affix. So bhagavat, one who has sixfold bhaga. Right? Sixfold bhaga. I translate it as a bhaga and get away with the thing. Because I don't know the translation of bhaga. And so I say bhaga. Okay? So bhaga means sixfold attributes. Let's take that way. Anyway, and so in short, this here jnanadi matve. Jnanadi. Jnana adi. Adi padat, you have to take, adi means etc. Etc. means here you have to take ichha and prayatna. So jnanadi matve. Ishvara has jnana. Ishvara has ichha. Ishvara has prayatna. And that is nityam. So nitya jnanadi matve asya ishvarasya. Well, all this foolishness will arise. That there will be no pralaya at all. Sada srushtihi eva bhavet, Vidyaranya says, Sada srushtihi eva bhavet. There will be perpetual creation, which means there will be no pralaya, which is against all pramana, against Veda pramana, and therefore, Nayayika's Ishvara is not, therefore, not acceptable. Now, this one responsibility, this person, our minor philosopher, has fulfilled. What is that responsibility? To negate the previous speaker, and he has done that job. Now, he has to establish his own opinion regarding Ishvara. So, he says, well, Hiranya Garbha Ishaha Ataha. Ataha means therefore. So, therefore means wherefore. Well, since Nayayika's Ishvara cannot account for this, Pralaya, we will have to basically introduce a better Ishvara. And so, Ataha, Hiranyagarbha Ishvara. Ishaha means Ishvara. So, Hiranyagarbha alone is this Ishvara. What is this Hiranyagarbha? What is the meaning of Hiranyagarbha actually? So, then only we will understand what is their opinion. Hiranyagarbha Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha Ishvara. And he cannot get away with this. He has to explain what is this Hiranyagarbha. And so, now let us understand. Hiranyagarbha, if you see the dictionary meaning, well, you have to see independently. Sometimes the dictionary will have all this list of words, with the meaning, depending upon the concepts prevalent, right? And therefore, Hiranyagarbha, that kind of a concept is not there in this modern world. And therefore, well, that is all Shastra's word. And so, you will have to see, you won't get Hiranyagarbha word, the meaning of the Hiranyagarbha word in dictionary. So, what will you do? You will see Hiranyam and you will see Garbha. Hiranyam means, that word you found with the meaning. Hiranyam means gold and Garbha means womb. So, well, definitely means one who has gold in his womb. That is called Hiranyagarbha. And that creates a confusion. Why confusion? Because you say Hiranyagarbha and then you uses he. Well, then how it is possible? And if he is there, then womb is not possible. Right? Womb will be always with the she. And therefore, this Hiranyagarbha, this basically, it is not possible with the he. That's one first problem. Second problem, suppose somehow that he has that womb. Well, no problem. But then the other problem is in this Garbha, in the womb, there will be a child or baby. There cannot be a gold in that Garbha. Why I am saying? Because these people, these foolish people, I am telling you, literally foolish guys are there. They themselves think, and Yamaraja criticizes in Kathopanishad so much. Andhe naiva niyamana yathandaha. They are blind people. And they try to lead the entire world in their own philosophy. There are people in this world also, right now. Anyway, what I want to convey is, we have to transcend the literary meaning. Otherwise, there will be a mockery. And if you understand the meaning in a different context, and with a different meaning, that makes a big sense. That's how they blame this Vedantin, that they always, basically manipulate the words. We don't manipulate. If you go by literary meaning, what will happen? Hiranyagarbha is a pullinga word. It's a masculine word. And then if you go by literary meaning, Garbha means definitely a womb. And how that has a womb? How a man has a womb? So you should understand that it has some different meaning. And if you can't think, take help of Vedantins, you just can't blame like that. This Vishishtadvaitin and all, they blame Vedanta. This Vedantins manipulate the word. We don't manipulate. The Sampradaya gives it's a rich tradition. We give a proper meaning, creating a certain context. Anyway, this is another story. But then Hiranyagarbha, we should not go by literary meaning. Hiranyagarbha means we'll have to Hiranyam. Okay, Hiranyam means what? Gold. Gold means what? Shining. And constantly shining. Constantly shining. Okay? Not now and then. Constantly shining. It's a shining nature. Shining means what? Light. Light means what? Jnana. Okay? And so Hiranyam means Jnana. and all the time shining, all the time light, all the time jnana, sarvajnatva. So Hiranyam is equal to Sarvajna. This much you have to think. If you can't think, better take a refuge of Vedanta. And therefore, Hiranyam is basically Jnanam, Sarvajnatva. Okay, and Garbha means what? Okay, now Garbha. Garbha means what? Within, inside. And well, so you don't take literal meaning like, like a womb, etc. And not only that, in English we are familiar with this kind of a verb, and this kind of a word. We use the word womb in English. Like in the womb of the earth, lot of metal ores are there. Yeah, in the womb of the earth. So earth does not have really a womb. So inside the earth, there are a lot of metal ores. And so Garbha is equal to Antaha. And therefore, let's take now, so Hiranyagarbha means, well, Hiranyam Garbhe Asya Saha Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyam means Jnanam. So Jnanam, one who has a within the Jnanam, one who is Sarvajna, that's called Hiranyagarbha. Anyway, in simple language, Hiranyagarbha is equal to omniscient Ishvara. And for this, I am now extending. Vidyaranya does not tell, but I am covering one more word. For Hiranyagarbha, we use another word also. Sutratma. Sutratma. So Sutratma also. Sutra means a thread. A thread, all the beads. From that, well, a thread passes through. From all the beads. Same way, all the living beings has a one thread which passes through all those shariras, and that is prana. Prana is the one which passes through all, which connects all the living beings, and therefore this Ishvara is the one who is in the form of prana, who is in the form of samashti prana, and that is called Sutratma. And prana represents Shakti. And therefore, Sutratma means Samashti Prana means Sarva Shakti. And therefore, Hiranyagarbha word for Ishvara, well, is equal to Sarvajnaha. And if you use Sutratma, it is called Sarva Shakti. Sarva Shaktiman, omniscient and omnipotent. That is how, well, this is how it has been told. Anyway, and Vedanta accepts this meaning, definitely. Well, suppose a Hiranyagarbhavadi gives this meaning. Vedanta says, yes, you are absolutely right. We accept your meaning that Hiranyagarbha is a Sarvajna. We accept it because Hiranyagarbha is basically, we define as the consciousness which identify with all subtle bodies. Consciousness which identify through all subtle bodies, well, is called Hiranyagarbha, and all subtle bodies, well, definitely include all Samashti Buddhi also, and Samashti Buddhi means Samashti Jnanam, and therefore a consciousness with all knowledge means is Sarvajna. So, and that is what in Taittiriya Upanishad that is very beautifully said, Apnoti Swarajyam, Apnoti Manasaspatim, and Vakpatis Chakshushpatihi, Shrotrapatir Vijnanapatihi, etc., etc. Well, there in this Vijnanapatihi means Samashti Jnanam. So, Hiranyagarbha is Ishvara, and his definition is, he is a Sarvajna. And here Vidyaranya says, Linga Dehena Sanyutaha. This Hiranyagarbha is a one, Linga Dehena Sanyutaha. Who is talking right now? That minor philosopher called Hiranyagarbha or Hiranyagarbhavadi, who says Ishvara is basically a Hiranyagarbha or a Samashti or a Sarvajna, etc. He says that Ishvara is Linga Dehena Sanyutaha. Linga Dehena. He is endowed with, well, all the Sukshma Shariras. Linga Deha means Linga Deha means Samashti Linga Deha, and Lingam means Sukshma Shariram. And but why do you call this Linga Dehena means Sukshma Sharirena Sanyutaha, means with he is endowed with all the subtle bodies. Why you are calling Sukshma Sharira as a Lingam? Well, Sukshma Sharira is called Lingam because basically this Lingam means an indicator. Lingam means an indicator, and well, pointer you can say. or a mark, etc. And so this Sukshma Sharira is called Lingam for some purpose. Sukshma Sharira is called a pointer. And pointer of what? Because it points to consciousness. So the consciousness can be recognized only through the reflection in the subtle body, and because pure consciousness is never available for perception. If consciousness is available for perception, he is no more a Atma. That's all. He is no more a Atma. He is one of the Anatma. Yeah, this computer is perceptible. Same way, the consciousness is also perceptible. Okay, then it is in the category of a computer. Okay, so definitely, the same way, consciousness by nature, if it is an Atma, it should not be an object of a perception. If you say if it is perceptible, it comes in a category of an object, never subject. If subject is a subject which is never available for perception. Anything which is perceptible is not Atma, is just Anatma. It is object. You are the one who objectify that. You are the one who objectify consciousness. So you are not consciousness, sir. If you are not consciousness, then what? You are what? No, I am able to objectify. I am able to see consciousness. I am able to hear consciousness. These are the fellows. I am able to hear consciousness. I am able to touch the consciousness. Then, basically that consciousness is inert thing. Because you are conscious of that. You are experiencing its sound and its form and whatever. So you are consciousness. And everything is an object of you. Object of consciousness, which is inert. And therefore this is a glossing over. It's a glossing over. Consciousness is imperceptible. Don't talk about like that. Consciousness means Atma. Atma is an Atma which is never available for objectification. Anything which is available for objectification is not Atma. Everything is an object, everything is available for objectification because it's an object of consciousness. And therefore, definitely, consciousness is one. I should not say like that consciousness is imperceptible, never available for perception. I should not say, but I am saying. Consciousness means Atma. Because I am the consciousness, and therefore I am never available for this perception, much less inference, presumption, and everything else. And therefore consciousness is apaurushaya, and we should not talk about it. But anyway, so this is, since the consciousness being a subject, definitely you will not be able to objectify it. Then how will you know that consciousness is there? There are other reasons, but don't go into that. We are in this line of thinking. So basically, definitely consciousness manifest in a certain medium, and so I know there is a consciousness, and therefore in that the medium becomes a conscious. Okay, and therefore like that mirror, mirror is there and it's a medium, and therefore how will I know my original face? How will I know my original face? Original face means this. Okay? And so, through the medium. Through the medium, I will recognize my original face. Yeah. But basically, I'm in the mirror, I'm seeing my reflection. I'm not seeing my original face. You are seeing your original face, remember. Because you are applying a powder. Okay? Or you are doing this tilakam. So, where are you doing tilakam? When you are seeing in a mirror, where do you apply powder? To that reflection or to yourself? This. So you are seeing yourself. You are recognizing yourself in a mirror. Don't talk about reflection. If you are, I'm seeing reflection. Don't say. Otherwise you will apply powder to the reflection. You apply immediately powder to yourself. Recognizing yourself in a medium called mirror. Mirror is an indicator, not of reflection. Mirror is indicator, mark, pointer to original. Okay? And then this you may think it is very simple thing. Don't think it is simple. People will think that mirror is basically a pointer to reflection. Not pointer to reflection, pointer to original. Same way, Sukshma Shariram is a pointer. Well, Definitely Sukshma Shariram in which this consciousness gets reflected, but well, definitely is a pointer to the original, not this reflection, etc. Like this, our they give an example. Is a very amazing thing. The thing which is all pervading, well, why do you require a pointer? If a thing which is all pervading means I just open eyes and I should see. Anywhere, at any time, with anything I can see, that is all pervading, being all pervading. Then, but still all pervading requires a medium. Yeah, that's how it is. That's how it is. Take an example of electricity. Let's take it as all pervading. In high tension wires and here in our all buildings in ashram and everywhere on all these wires, it's all pervading. But still, even though all pervading, not available for perception. Okay? And therefore you require a medium called a bulb. You require a medium called refrigerator. You require a medium called something else, or a microwave or whatever. So definitely all these are mediums basically by which you are able to recognize the presence of an electricity. And so all these, they are called pointers. All our gadgets, electrical gadgets, are pointers for recognizing electricity. Same way here also, this all-pervading consciousness is recognized through the subtle body. Because we see the eyes are conscious, ears are conscious, everything is conscious, mind is conscious, everything is conscious. Oh, so there is a consciousness. And that's how, so that's how Sukshma Sharira is called Linga Deha. So Sanyuta means endowed with. Linga Dehena Sanyuta means Ishvara, who is Hiranyagarbha, he is endowed with all subtle bodies. He encompasses all subtle bodies. He pervades all subtle bodies. He means what? That consciousness pervades all the subtle bodies. Consciousness identified with all subtle bodies is Ishvara. Consciousness identified with one particular subtle body is Jiva. He is a Jiva. Ye Chidabhasa. Consciousness identified with all subtle bodies, again Chidabhasa. But macro, macro. Okay? And so consciousness identified with one subtle body. Then there will be some problem. Perhaps you might have recognized, but I will keep that under suspension. We will discuss, the time is coming now. So all Chidabhasa, identified, you said identify, yeah, identify. Identification means say adhyasa. Yeah, adhyasa. Yeah, adhyasa means ajnana. Then Ishvara also is ajnana because you said identified with all subtle bodies. And then one subtle body itself is a big problem. Then all subtle, identifying with all subtle bodies, all minds. Oh my God, he is the most depressed one. Because the depression is there all the time in our one mind itself is a basically mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. Mana eva karanam bandhasya. Oh, mind itself is a cause of this bondage. And the Ishvara identify with all the subtle bodies, all the minds. My God, he has no scope of getting freedom. Yeah, we will be discussing that. Don't worry. Let's go to the verse number 112. Udgita brahmane tasya mahatmyamati vistrutam linga sattvepi jivatvam nasya karmadya bhavatah. Now this Hiranyagarbha Upasaka continues, because I have told you in two verses, 111 and 112, this Hiranyagarbha Upasaka, or this a minor philosopher who talks about the nature of Ishvara, he doesn't talk about all the aspects of the philosophy, just takes a few things only. He says that Hiranyagarbha is a Ishvara, is not my own invention. It is very much there in the Veda. And therefore, whatever my view regarding Ishvara is there, it is a Vedika philosophy. My philosophy is a Vedika philosophy. Everyone has to tell. In an Astika circle, when you are discussing, sitting around a table and all are Astikas, first criteria is you have to accept Veda as a Pramana. If you say, I don't accept, they will say, please leave the room. Please leave the room, because there is a discussion based on Veda only. So everyone has to, whatever their opinion regarding Ishvara or Jiva or anything, they will have to derive a support from the Veda. So he also says now that what I say that Ishvara is a Hiranyagarbha, etc. Well, all the Shrutis talk about it. And I told you there are several quotations. Hiranyagarbha is Ishvara. I mean, Ishvara is a Hiranyagarbha. Several quotations are there. And one quotation I just gave you in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Shikshavalli, Apnotis Swarajyam, etc. Well, Vakpatis, Chakshushpatihi, Shrotrapatir, Vijnanapatihi, etc. So, Vijnanapatihi means basically, Sarvagnyam, etc. Ishvara is a Hiranyagarbha, etc. It has been told there. But anyway, now here he is referring not to Shikshavalli of Taittiriya Upanishad. He is referring to Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and from there he quotes. Well, and that is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, first chapter, third section. Called, and that section, every section in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is called Brahmanam. And so this is a third section is called Udgita Brahmanam. So, well, Udgita Brahmanam, and there the whole section is talking about Hiranyagarbha only, very, very elaborately, and it is called Udgita Brahmanam because there the Hiranyagarbha Upasana is done with a Omkara as a Alambanam, as a prop. So if you take an Alambanam or if you take Omkara as a prop and you visualize Ishvara, well, that is there in this Brahmanam. And it is called Udgita Brahmanam, because as such, with a Omkara Alambanam, if you worship Ishvara or meditate Ishvara, well, it should be called Omkara Brahmanam. Why do you call Udgita Brahmanam? You are saying in that section, there is a discussion, there is a total analysis of, regarding Ishvara only, Hiranyagarbha only, but Hiranyagarbha is meditated. There actually it's an Upasana section. And Hiranyagarbha is meditated with the prop of Omkara. So it should be called Omkara Brahman. You are calling that third section is called Udgita Brahman. Yeah, because Udgita is a name of a Omkara in the Samaveda. And that, well, even though Brihadaranyaka Upanishad belongs to Yajurveda, well, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad refers to Samaveda Omkara, which is called Udgita, and therefore, therefore it is called Udgita Brahman. That even though Omkara or Alambanam is there, but still, but it refers to Samaveda Omkara. And what is the difference between Samaveda Omkara and other Omkara? Well, other places it is Omkara. That Omkara actually, it's a sound, and then it's a musical sound. Then it's called Udgita. Whole Samaveda is a music. All the mantras are sung very well there, and including Omkara also. And therefore, this Samaveda Omkara will be a musical Omkara in the Samaveda, and therefore, it is called Udgita. And that Udgita has been referred as a prop for meditating Ishvara, and that is called Hiranyagarbha there. And so, that is how, this is called Udgita Brahmanam. And in that Brahmanam, it's they sing a glory. So it says here, Udgita Brahmane Tasya. Tasya means that Ishvarasya, Hiranyagarbhasya, Mahatmyam Ati Vistrutam. Tasya Mahatmyam, glory. That Ishvara's glory has been sung in that Brahmanam, in that Udgita Brahmanam of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, very, very elaborately. Ati Vistrutam, very elaborately, the glory has been sung there. Talked about by giving various titles to this Hiranyagarbha. So now, like I told you in this Taittiriya Upanishad Shikshavalli also, that Vakpatihi, Chakshushpatihi, Shrotrapatihi, Vijnanapatihi, who is a master of all the, naturally because he is identified with all the subtle bodies, and therefore Vakpatihi, he is a master of all the speech, of all the jivas. He is a master of all the hearing faculties of all the jivas, etc., etc. Like that, the glory has been sung in Shikshavalli. Glory of Ishvara has been sung in Shikshavalli. Same way in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also, in this third section, Udgita Brahmanam, this Hiranyagarbha's glory has been sung with the different words. Here they call Brihaspati, Vachaspati, etc. etc. Anyway, so this is what Udgita Brahmana talks about. So Udgita Brahmane, in this section of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, third section of the first chapter, called Udgita Brahmanam, Tasya Hiranyagarbhasya Ishwarasya Mahatmam Ati Vismrutam. Well, Asti, and therefore his slow glory has been there in an elaborate way. Okay, that's okay. Now what about the second line of this verse? Well, before that we have to raise a Purvapaksha. So this Hiranyagarbhavadi himself creates a doubt, and he answers, and that answer is the second line. So first we will have to create a Purvapaksha, and then we can understand the answer. What is that Purvapaksha? Well, the objection here is, which I just referred also before few minutes. The objection is this, that in Vedanta Shastra basically Sukshma Shariram is considered to be the culprit. I'll tell you that he is a culprit, and it is a cause of all the problems. So Sthula Shariram and Karana Shariram are basically very benign. Sthula Shariram has no problem. Sthula Shariram by itself has no problem. So, just Sthula Shariram, take just Sthula Shariram, means dead body. Dead body does not have any problem. Others may have a problem with the dead body, but dead body by itself has no problem. And therefore, so Sthula Shariram is not a cause of problem, because human being has lot of problems. Okay, now here three layers are there: Sthula, Sukshma, Karana Shariram. And so we are thinking now that's which is the culprit of all the problems of the human being, but because he is all the time sitting with this, and therefore, what is the problem? But Sthula Shariram has no problem. Just Sthula Shariram, is dead body, has no problem. Others may have a problem with that dead body, but Sthula Shariram by itself has no problem. What about Karana Shariram? Karana Shariram also does not have any problem. Karana Shariram does not give any problem. In fact, it's our own experience. Karana Shariram is what? Sushupti Avastha. In fact, it is not a problem. In fact, it's a source of joy. And therefore, Karana Shariram also, because why do you call Sushupti as Karana Shariram? This is a very basic question now. Anyway, go to Tattvabodha and refer. Because in a Sushupti Avastha, both those bodies are definitely resolved. Sthula Shariram is resolved, and all the senses and everything is resolved, mind is resolved, everything is resolved, and therefore Sukshma Sharira is also absent. And just merely that identification with the causal body is there, right? So Karana Shariram, if it is a problematic, then definitely it should give a problem to me in that deep sleep state. But it gives a joy, and therefore Sthula Shariram is not a cause of problem. Karana Sharira is not a cause of problem. And therefore by rule of elimination, we come to that, that the Sukshma Shariram is a cause of problem. And Sukshma Shariram is active, all the problems. Because of Sukshma Shariram is present, there is Adhyasa, and then Ahankara, then Kartrutvam, then Bhoktrutvam, then Pramatrutvam, all of them are there, definitely loaded in Sukshma Shariram. And therefore, Mana eva Manushyanam Karanam Bandha Mokshayo. This bondage, etc. is there where? It is all there in the mind, etc. And therefore, mind alone is a villain for this person, for this conscious being. And mind belongs to definitely, Sukshma Shariram. In general, Sukshma Shariram is the cause of the problem. And that's how some of the teachers, some of the Vedantic teachers define moksha as a linga bhanga. Lingam means Sukshma Shariram, I just talked to you. And bhanga, linga bhanga, moksha. Bhanga means a resolving, destroying. Destroying this lingam, destroying the subtle body is called moksha. And they give an example of what? Sushupti. See, all the senses are absent and mind is absent and their intellect, everything is absent. Ahankara also, which is a part of the mind, right? That is also absent. Very I notion also has gone. Everything resolved. then you have joy, joy and joy. Nothing but joy. And therefore, moksha should be defined as a linga bhanga, destroying this subtle body, destroying mind and destroying everything, of all the vayavas of the subtle body, is basically moksha. Anyway, so this is Anvaya Vyatirika. When lingam is there, samsara is there. Kartrutva, bhoktrutva, dhyasa, I notion, all limitations, all, when mind is active, mind is there. So, well, linga sattve, samsara sattvam, this is Anvaya. Right? And linga bhave, samsara bhavaha. When there is lingam, when subtle body is not there, there is no samsara. When subtle body is there, well, all samsara. Like in deep sleep state, there is no subtle body. I mean, resolved. And therefore, no samsara. And in a waking state and in a dream state, when subtle body is there, well, and then all the problems. You face problems even in the deep dream state also, right? And therefore, basically, so in any form, when subtle body is active or it is there, you will have a problem. In Atmabodha, Shankaracharya ji also says, you will feel this is which direction Swami is going. And you may feel like that. But we are thoroughly going into Puropaksha. So, in Atmabodha, we have studied this, of course. Ragecha sukha dukkhadi buddhau satyam pravartate sushuptau nasti tan nashe tasmad buddhi gunatmanaha. Very beautiful. Shankaracharya ji says all this raga, ichha, sukha, dukkha, buddhau satyam pravartate. When buddhi, subtle body, when mind is there, satyam, when mind is existing, when mind is not resolved, I mean, well, you find all these are there, likes, dislikes and everything, sukham, dukkham, everything. Sushuptau, in a deep sleep state, tan nashe, buddhi nashe means when buddhi resolves, all these gunas are also not there. And therefore this raga, ichha, sukham, dukkham belongs to subtle body, not to Atma. That is what it has been told in Atmabodha. Means don't take yourself that I have so many likes, I have so many dislikes. Well, I am happy, I am unhappy, etc. Don't take yourself to be like that. All these gunas, basically all this pleasure, pain and etc. and this likes, dislike, all belong to the mind, subtle body, etc. Anyway, so when there is active this linga sharira, there is a samsara. When the linga sharira, sukshma sharira dissolves into sushupti, no more samsara, and therefore yatra yatra linga shariram, tatra tatra samsara. Wherever there is a linga sharira, there is problem, samsara. And therefore, sukshma deha is a cause of samsara. Okay. What do we want to convey? We want to convey something very beautiful. And Hiranyagarbhavadi himself has raised this question in order to, strengthen his point further and by answering. Well, he does that job. So this is definitely now in the previous verse we said the Hiranyagarbha Upasaka, they defined that Ishvara is just one who is Linga Dehena Sanyuta, who is endowed with all the subtle bodies. And therefore, Hiranyagarbha, if he is identified with all the subtle bodies, then definitely samsara, is due to this subtle body. And he is identified with all subtle bodies. Ishvara will be a Mahasamsari. That is the big problem. And therefore, full of samsara, we have a samsara, but Ishvara is being identified with all subtle bodies. We have samsara due to just identifying with one subtle body. Jiva has a limited samsara. Ishvara identified with all subtle bodies, because you say Linga Dehena Sanyutaha. With his Sanyuta means endowed with all subtle bodies, then he has big samsaras. Because ultimately Linga Deha alone is a cause for samsara. So then why do you glorify this Ishvara as a Hiranyagarbha? Why? And you quote even Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also that in there Ishvara is glorified as a Hiranyagarbha, etc. Why? He is a Mahasamsari. You should not glorify. And then he himself answers in a second line. That's how in between first and second line we have to put this Puropaksha. So in that second line answer is there. Linga Sattve Api. See now. Linga Sattve Api, even though Hiranyagarbha is associated with all the Linga Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, while still Sukshma Sharira is not a cause of his bondage. Will not cause a bondage, because in his Linga Sharira there are no karmas. What is this? Karma abhava. Karma abhavat phala bhava, and then sukha dukkha bhava, etc. Samsara bhava is there. And so why karma is absent? Why karma is absent in Hiranyagarbha, in Ishvara? There is a reason. See, because karma will be there for the person who is a karta. Since Ishvara does not take himself to be a karta, he has no karma, he has no karma phala, he has not to undergo sukha dukkha, etc., pleasure, pain, and therefore no samsara. And therefore, why he has no kartrutva? Because there is no ahankara. Why he has no ahankara? Because there is no adhyasa. Why he has no adhyasa? Because there is no ajnana. Why he has no ajnana? That's what we say. Hiranyagarbha means all knowledge. We have already told you, it's omniscient. And therefore, Sarvajna is the one who has no obstruction of ignorance. Yeah, who has not to shrug the shoulders, right? That I don't know. And therefore, basically, Hiranyagarbha, that's how we say. Hiranyagarbha means Hiranyam Garbhe Asya. We have already told you he is omniscient. And therefore, well, there is no ajnanam. If there is no ajnanam, there is no adhyasa. If there is no adhyasa, there is no ahankara. If there is no ahankara, there is no kartrutva. If there is no kartrutvam, he has no karmas. If he has no karmas, there will not be a karma phala for him. If he has no karma phala, means he has not to undergo pleasure, pain, etc. And therefore he has no samsara. And therefore, even though he is endowed with all the subtle bodies, he is free from samsara. Habba. So these are the steps you have to take into account. I am going to ask you after a small break will come. When I come to US, I will first ask you this question. Why Hiranyagarbha has no samsara? Okay? So please remember. No, repeat, then only will remember. I will tell you first. Ajnanam is not there. Why? Because Sarvajna. How do you say Sarvajna? Hiranyagarbha. And therefore Hiranyagarbha, he is a Sarvajna. So no Ajnanam, no ahankara, no adhyasa, because adhyasa is born of ajnana, and therefore adhyasa is not there. If adhyasa is not there, there is no ahankara at all. Ahankara is the first product of adhyasa. Ahankara is a very I notion arises when consciousness identified with the mind. When the mind becomes conscious, the first thing is I notion. The very I notion indicates consciousness as identified with the subtle body. But you are saying consciousness manifests in the subtle body. Yes, consciousness manifests in the subtle body. And then consciousness identified also with the subtle body. Means the consciousness, the Brahman, Parmeshwara takes himself to be just a subtle body or mind to begin with. He takes, why he has to take? Because ignorance. Yeah, then you are saying Parmeshwara has no ignorance. Yes. But then Parmeshwara has a upadhi of ajnanam. That's what Jiva is. And therefore, due to ajnanam, wherever it manifests, it takes himself to be like that. That only. So Parmeshwara manifests in the subtle body, first let's say in the mind, he takes himself to be the mind. That is called ahankara. I notion definitely will arise. Well, and then that aham vritti will arise. And then idam vritti will arise, of course. Then this is how. So ajnanam, adhyasa, and adhyasa means superimposition. Well, definitely. So this Brahman, which is all pervading, takes himself to be just a mind. And attributes of the mind basically superimposed upon the Atma, etc. And so limitations, etc. And well, so ahankara has all the limitations. Ahankara, even though is a conscious, but is a limited consciousness. And that is due to a anyonya adhyasa, superimposing. And so don't take Atma's adhyasa upon Anatma. That you should not say like that. Well, Atma is taken to be Anatma, mind, etc. That is what you should say. Don't say Anatma is superimposed upon Atma, Anatma is superimposed upon Anatma. Don't say like that. Okay? Atma cannot be superimposed upon Anatma. What is superimposed is mithya. And therefore don't say Atma is superimposed upon Anatma. Therefore Atma becomes mithya then. Okay? And so you cannot, and all pervading, how will you superimpose? How will you superimpose all pervading thing? That's a mystery for me. Anyway, so just you should say, that's how they call samsarga adhyasa. Samsarga adhyasa means just in association. Because mind being non-separate from the Atma, and under the spell of ignorance or ignorance upadhi, ajnana upadhi, Atma, which is a consciousness, takes himself to be just a mind. That's all. That's how it is. And then definitely all the attributes of the mind are superimposed upon Atma. That is what our Vyavahara is. Anyway, so Ahankara and then Kartrutvam, which belongs to the mind, of course, is superimposed upon Atma. That is how it is. I am Karta. So Ajnanam, Adhyasa, Ahankara, Kartrutvam, Bhoktrutvam. Naturally, if you are Karta, you are going to be a Bhokta because you have done and then you have to suffer. And therefore all karmas will be possible for being a Karta. And I'm sorry, so many. I'll talk about it later. Anyway, so Kartrutvam, Bhoktrutvam, and of course there will be samsara will be there, sukha dukkha will be there, which is not there in the case of Hiranyagarbha. Which in the case of Ajnanam is upadhi for a jiva. Well, for Ishvara, Maya is upadhi, Vishuddha Sattva upadhi. Well, and therefore there is no Ajnanam. Due to Vishuddha Sattvam, he is a Sarvagnya, etc. Anyway, I'll further talk about it later. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.